Now, we know that retail isn't doing well, and we have a separation, which is kind of strange in itself. We have the online retailers and the brick and mortar retailers. Now, some of the brick and mortar retailers, they have an online presence, and many online retailers, they don't really have a brick and mortar presence. So we have this kind of separation here. And throughout the online history where you purchase your goods online, if you were out of state, you didn't have to pay a tax. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the states may require out-of-state online retailers to collect sales tax on merchandise they sell in that state. Now, there was a ruling in 1992, and it was Quilcorp versus North Dakota. And they blocked states from compelling retailers with no physical presence in that state to collect sales tax. Now, what has happened here is that the Government Accountability Office estimated the state and local governments could have collected between $8 billion and $13 billion in sales taxes in 2017 if states were given authority to require sales tax collection from all remote sellers. In today's ruling, authored by Justice Anthony Kennedy, the court sided with South Dakota, which had passed a law in 2016 that required large out-of-state online retailers to collect sales tax on merchandise sold in that state. Online furniture retailer Wayfair, along with Overstock.com, and online electronics retailer Newegg sued to block the law and won in lower court. And the battle may not entirely be over. The law could face legal challenges on other grounds. And what we're seeing right now is that these 45 states, well, first they have to come up with their own laws to push sales tax, and I don't think that will take very long. But I think what's going to happen is if this goes through and everyone starts charging sales tax, this is going to hurt the online retailers. I don't believe people are going to go, hey, you know something? I'm not going to purchase online because it's the same sales tax in the store, so I'm just going to go to the brick and mortar stores. I think what's going to happen, just like the tax on soda, and I think out in other countries where there were taxes on retail, I think in Japan, all of a sudden sales plummeted. I think the same thing is going to happen right now because we are on the edge where people no longer are making the amount of money where they can just go out and spend the money and just say, hey, I don't really care. They are very cautious in what they spend on. This is why we see the brick and mortar and online, all retail, not doing that well. And I think this is just going to hurt it. Yes, I know the dollar signs look great and they can collect a lot of tax. They saw this when they taxed soda and other things. But guess what happens? People say, you know something then? I really don't need it. I'm not going to buy it at all then. And I believe this will happen because what we're seeing in this economy is that it's completely falling apart very, very quickly. Everything is happening at the same time right now. And all these other things added on top of it is not going to help. I mean, look at the housing market. We've been talking about the housing market. It is a complete disaster right now. U.S. homes are least affordable since 2008 right now. Adam Data Solutions released its second quarter 2018 housing affordability report, shows that people just don't have the funds to go out and pay for these expensive homes, even though that the pace of home prices has slowed and it's been dropping in some areas. There's also been an 11% increase in mortgage rates compared with a year ago. And when we start to look at this and we start to see what's going on here, we're starting to see that retail breaking down, real estate breaking down, auto sales breaking down. Mortgage rates, interest rates are moving up. And the GDP numbers are completely fake, phony, and false because 70% of the GDP numbers are individuals purchasing in retail. So if brick and mortar stores are closing and online sales are not getting the 1-to-1 ratio, there is a problem here. And when we look back here at real estate, nationwide, an average wage earner would need to spend around 31.2% of their income to buy a median-priced home in the second quarter of 2018. That's above the historic average of 29.6%. Somebody earning the average wage wouldn't qualify to buy a median-priced home in 326, roughly 75%, of the 432 counties analyzed in this report. So the situation is not good right now. The situation is getting worse every single day. And this summer is going to be absolutely awful in real estate compared to what happened last year and the year before that. What we're seeing is a decline in people going out and purchasing homes. This is going to have an effect on other industries: lumber, plumbing, electrical, home furnishings, you name it. It's all tied together. And again, if the banks aren't loaning money, they're not making money. So this is going to be a huge, huge problem. We see the Philly Fed, it has crashed right now. And when we look at this, we can see it's plunged from 34.4 to 19.9, well below expectations of 29. I mean, this is just unbelievable right now. And this is the biggest drop in the survey since February of 2014. And now it's the weakest since November of 2016. New orders also collapsed. I mean, this is just absolutely awful. And now, since this, we see the dollar is now plunging. Everything is happening all at the same time. Now, countries, they realize that this system cannot last much longer. And they've been preparing for a very long time. We talked about Russia before, how they were selling their treasury securities. And they're saying that they need to do this to protect the reserves. Basically, what they've been doing is they've been selling the treasuries and buying gold. And I'm not talking about paper gold, paper contracts. I'm talking about physical gold. So Russia sold more than any other major foreign holder of U.S. debt. So Russia's gold holdings have been steadily increasing, bringing its share of the precious metal to its highest level in nearly 2 decades. Last month, Russia's gold holdings grew by 1% to 62 million troy ounces, worth $80.5 billion. Now, China could do the same thing. If the trade war gets really bad and we see tariffs are being implemented, China's fighting back, and this is all part of the plan, they can do the same thing. Dump the treasuries, use that to purchase gold, and basically what these countries are doing, they're getting out of U.S. debt. Why are they doing this? Because they know once everything starts to go south, the paper that they're holding is going to be worth absolutely nothing. And we see at this point, while they do this, they're getting out of all U.S. paper, which means if there are sanctions placed on them, it doesn't hurt them because they can use other currencies. They're not holding that paper debt. They're not holding anything like that, and they can trade in gold. They can trade in the ruble, in the yuan, or any other currency, bypassing the sanctions completely. So what we see happening right now is that countries are preparing. They're getting ready. And they've been doing this for quite a while. This is not something they started yesterday. They knew way back that there were problems. This is why China, Russia, and many other nations have been either purchasing gold or repatriating their gold because they're getting prepared for what is coming. We also understand that all these economic statistics that are being thrown out there, most of them are manipulated. And I have to refer back to 2008. One of the main statistics back then was how the subprime securities were AAA. That was a fake rating, and they kept using that over and over and over, saying that, housing can't go down, the stock market can't crash, it's impossible, it will never happen. And what we saw happen is that everything fell apart all at once. even though unemployment was at one of its lowest points, the stock market was at its highest point, and the GDP numbers looked good, everything looked great, people were going about their business, until one day everyone woke up and everything started to fall apart. And all of a sudden the stock market fell apart, almost like the market has been coming down right now. In the past couple of days, the market has been dropping. Actually, we haven't hit any new highs in a very long time, and the market continually comes down. Now, what's going to happen eventually is there's going to be panic selling, and no matter what computer algorithm is set, they will not be able to handle the amount of selling that people are going to do. Once that happens, we're going to see the same thing that happened back in 2008. Companies are going to get on board because we know companies aren't really making money. They're basically buying back their stock. They're laying off individuals, restructuring, trying to keep the company together. Actually, we saw this happen prior to 2008. And when everything starts to fall apart, this gives the corporations an excuse to say, hey, you know something? We can lay off tens of thousands of people. We can cut our costs because we need to, because the market has come down. And look how much we've lost. And again, this is what they're planning on. They understand that this is going to happen. This is not something that's just going to come out of left field and surprise them. They've been preparing for this. They thought this was going to happen in a different way, but they know that this is coming. The insiders know it all. This is why they pump up the bubbles. They get out before the bubbles pop. They sell off to the everyday person. And these people are holding all these investments. And they think that this is going to continually move up and up and up and up. And eventually what happens is everything starts to fall apart. And these individuals, they try to sell off. They say, oh, we don't want to hold on to this because it's continually dropping every single day. And basically the drop picks up speed and accelerates. And before you know it, they're worth nothing, and it wipes a lot of people out. Then what happens? Well, then the central bankers, these same people, they come in and they buy the same exact things for pennies on the dollar. This is what they do time and time again. The insiders know what's going on, and they know this time around, this is going to be huge. And they know they need to get out of the stock market, out of housing, and this is why you see the insiders selling off. This is why you see hedge funds, investment companies trying to sell off. Actually, they've been selling off prior to this bubble hitting this high point. They've been selling their investments, getting out, taking profit, reinvesting it someplace else. A lot have been purchasing gold and silver. Some have been storing this in cryptocurrency. And we know that the elite, the insiders, they know exactly what's going on. And what is happening right now is that everything is falling apart at the same exact time. And they know a crash is inevitable. There's no way around this. We're going to go through some type of crash. This whole entire system has been built up on one gigantic illusion, all the way from the manipulated unemployment numbers to the manipulated stock market to the manipulation everywhere else. The whole thing is an illusion. And of course, what's going to happen once everything falls apart, then you'll hear stories of how these numbers were manipulated, what they did to manipulate it. I mean, think about it. In 2008, prior to 2008, you weren't hearing that the subprime securities were manipulated, that the ratings were manipulated and it's really not AAA. You didn't hear any of that. After the crash, what did you hear? The rating agencies manipulated and they gave false ratings to these subprime securities. You always find out all of this when everything crashes. Before the crash, they tell you everything is great. But they know behind the scenes, it is not.